Hello, 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 beautiful people. I am excited to be back with you today. I am nervous. My heart is beating fast today because this one is going to be spicy. I know I'm going to get some DMs, and I'm only nervous because I'm excited about the topic, but full transparency, my children are home and they are out of school for the summer, and I'm sure there are lots of parents who are experiencing this transitional time between summer activities and school. So I'm nervous because they're quiet now and it could go left at any moment. So my heart is beating fast. But, I just wanted to be honest, right? Have a moment of full transparency and I guess vulnerability because in the peak of when we were in lockdown, it was normal for children to pop in or noises to be made, right? We got to be human in a lot of ways. And I feel like some of that stuff has some of those perceptions have evaporated a little bit. And I just want to remind folks that we're all human and we are all just navigating this existence to the best of our ability every day. So give yourself some grace. So if one of you get to meet, or if those of you who are watching this live on LinkedIn Live or on YouTube, get to be introduced to one of my beautiful children who are home today. Bonus, right? We're operating in the overflow. So now that I've gotten all of my pre-course out of the way, see, my heart rate calmed down. Naming it, calling a thing is the way to get it under control, is the way to kind of control our feelings around that thing. So I am Leah Murphy. I am the CEO of Career Gems for the Journey, where we help talented professionals build thriving careers. I'm really excited to be back with you today. If anyone is joining me live, we are back. We are at our 2:00 spot, 2:00 p.m. Eastern time, which, based on your votes, was the time that was most ideal for folks to have an opportunity to be able to join us live. So if you are here with us live, please do drop your city in the chat. I would love to know who is here, who is a part of this discussion, because I really want this one to be a discussion. It's going to be spicy. There are lots of contrary opinions in what we're going to talk about today. So I think it's important for us to have the dialogue, though. And I wanted to make sure that I came with some really substantive evidence. As we talked about on the last time we were together, was audacity. So we focused on audacity and how do we get more of that? How do we show up to be able to tell our own story? Oftentimes in the workplace, that's something that folks aren't conditioned to do. So, and I say conditioned intentionally because it's not like you're not able, it's not that you're not capable, but in a lot of times, in a lot of organizations, we have been conditioned against doing it. So, I want to talk about that. I want to be able to break that down, but I want to make sure that I can shout anyone out who is joining me live. So go ahead and drop your city in the chat. And then also you'll see a QR code on the screen. Scan the QR code. Lots of amazing things happening at Career Gems for the Journey. First, we just introduced team building services. So if your team is looking for an opportunity to be able to do some team building, build some connections, open the lines of communications, also while having some fun, we have offered that service as a result of lots of requests from our clients. So definitely want to click on the link to take advantage of that. I'm sorry, scan the QR code, take advantage of that. And then also there's an opportunity to join our email list. We are putting out exclusive content that is not available on any other platform, but you have to be on our email list. You can get on our email list by going to gemsforthejourney.org, and you can take the opportunity to join our email list so that all that exclusive content goes right into your inbox. Do it. I'm telling you now, you will not be disappointed. Do it. We're working on some amazing things in the background. So, all right, so let's get into it. We were talking about audacity the last time we had an opportunity to connect. And I believe that audacity can really be the difference maker in making sure that you get the acknowledgement that's necessary in order for you to ask for what you want. And whatever it is you want, whether it's a promotion, whether it's a bigger title, whether it's additional compensation, whether it's a special assignment, or whether it's all of the above, telling your own story, owning your own narrative to be able to speak to the work that you do and the value that you bring to the organization is so mission critical in order to do that, and to do it in the terms that the business cares about. Do it in terms of how are we growing? How does this affect the bottom line? What is the P&L impact? What is the growth? What is the relationship impact? that we've been able to secure new clients, new customers, or new lines of business as a result of your contribution, right? Is an example that I really like to encourage folks to think about. Talking about what you do in the context that the business cares about, not what you care about as an individual, because a lot of the work that we do could be feel good work, and that's okay. But as you're looking to ask for what you want, it has to be based on the value that the company sees as valuable. So I got some DMs last time that there are some blockers or some boundaries potentially to being able to do that all the time, to being able to be audacious and kind of tell your own story. And some of that had come up just naturally, where it's like, I just don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. There's lots of great content in our previous podcasts and LinkedIn Lives. So go ahead and take advantage and jump into some of those, because there's lots of in-depth, step-by-step for how to tell your story, how to low-key brag, how to high-key brag, how to focus on storytelling and using storytelling to talk about the work that you do. But this was the other side, because there is some mental blockers oftentimes that hold us back from being able to show up in the way of our true authenticity and with the audacity that maybe we have not been able to explore yet. So, you know what's coming up, right? Maybe you've heard this just today, because it is rampantly discussed all over platforms, all over all kinds of places. And it's this idea of imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is something that has been discussed, I feel like, in a lot of different ways. And I have had a contrary opinion on it for a long time. And what always is, pings for me is like, Leah, that's you being contrary to popular belief because of your experience, right? So sometimes even I do it. I doubt my own experience because I'm looking for other evidence sources to make sure that the two have the potential to align, right? So I want to always make sure I'm looking at other sources when I think about imposter syndrome, specifically because it is so popularized and because it's so discussed. So imposter syndrome is defined, according to Psychology Today, as people who struggle with the belief that they are deserving of acknowledgments, recognitions, or achievements, and they don't hold their own achievements in high esteem because they're perceiving that soon enough people will discover that their achievements, their accomplishments, their accolades, their degrees, for example, may all be found out to be a fraud. So they have this gnawing feeling that all that they've accomplished, despite the evidence, at some point could be at risk because peers or others could discover that they are a fraud. So, and I'm telling you guys this because I did my capstone project as I was finishing my coaching certification on overcoming imposter syndrome. So it's something that I've been talking about for a long time. And I love the benefit of being able at this big age to be able to evolve my own thinking and change based on my experience and also based on the experience of my clients. So yes, at this big age, I have changed my own mind through evidence, through being in community with other people on what exactly is the crux of imposter syndrome and how it goes down. So there's someone I follow on social media who I find to be brilliant. Her name is Dr. Raquel Martin. She is also from Philadelphia. Shout out to Dr. Raquel Martin. She actually did a post on imposter syndrome relative to Black women. I would love for folks to go look her up and find that. But when she said that, I was like, okay, because it was contrary to popular opinion. It was so well in line with what I was thinking, but hadn't heard anybody else vocalize. So I was thrilled that Dr. Raquel Martin said exactly what I was thinking about imposter syndrome. And then I had a second confirmation by the brilliant Tiffany Tavares, who is personally a mentor of mine, but also just out here on the LinkedIn streets doing amazing things. A huge, powerful, impactful individual as it relates to the spaces that she enters into, that she chooses to give her time and attention to. So, that was it, right? I've heard from Dr. Raquel Martin, who doesn't know me, but is a friend in my head. So hi, Dr. Raquel, if you are, or Dr. Martin, if you are listening to this, please tag her if anybody else is also a fan. And the talented Tiffany Tavares, please also tag her if you are also a fan. And both of them gave this perspective that imposter syndrome is really something that organizations and I say organizations, that could be companies, that could be universities, that could be any other institution, really puts upon people oftentimes. And I'm specifically speaking about Black and Brown women in this particular instance. And the reason why is because that's where my lived experience comes from. That's where my clients' lived experience comes from oftentimes. And I've seen the same pattern in other people that are not Black women, but I see it multiplied and intensified when I'm talking to Black women clients that I'm coaching. And the reason why I wanted to break it down, because imposter syndrome as a concept hurts our ability to be audacious, to ask for what we want. Now, it looks like I may have froze for a second there, but it looks like we're back on track, y'all. So those two examples of my clients and myself really helped me to kind of break it down and put it into terms that I felt more comfortable with. I believe that it should not really be focused on imposter syndrome. Implies that the individual, the person who is experiencing imposter syndrome, is the one who has to do some work to be able to repair their own perception or to be able to overcome this imposter syndrome problem, right? And I'm saying problem as air quotes. But in the way that I see the world today, after tons of research, is I really believe it's more of an imposter system. So I don't think it should be imposter syndrome. I think it should be imposter system. And as someone who is very, very, very familiar with systems, as someone who's an engineer by trade, who runs a business, who also runs a household that requires systems, I want to give you guys the definition of system and then really further explore this idea of how imposter system really is more appropriate based on my experience and based on the research that I've done with my clients. So a system is a set of things working together as a part of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. A system is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organization or framework or methodology. So the reason why I want to call it imposter system is because there are things that are happening in the environment that you are in as an individual that is causing you to perceive yourself as an imposter. You can't perceive yourself as an imposter independently without other signals coming in from the environment, right? We are born who we are, and I really believe that self-acceptance is a huge part of growth. And growth is natural as we pursue environments outside of our comfort zone. So when we experience, tension or frustration or trepidation or fear is normally coming as a result of stepping out of our comfort zone, right? That is a part of growth. So we may have fear tied to being audacious, or we may have trepidation or some nervousness tied to asking for what we want. But we cannot perceive ourselves as imposters unless the environment that we are in is contributing to that belief. What are you talking about, Leah? What's an example? I'll give you an example. Exceptionally talented client who has more degrees than I possibly could even consider, right? All of the evidence, all the way up to having a doctorate degree. This individual has spent over a decade building a career based on immense credibility in a very difficult, complex field. And despite the environment that she was in, she began to pursue growth. She began to pursue new opportunities. And in pursuing the new opportunities, she was introduced into new rooms, new environments. It wasn't until she was introduced to the new environments and rooms that she perceived herself as an imposter. And let me explain why. She then began to be questioned as to the validity of her thoughts or decision making, or how she was in the room. How did she get the role that she was in? These are signals or questions that are rooted in something that are coming from the environment, that is often driven by the culture in that organization, not by the individual. So when you think about it as a system that is tied to the culture of that environment, then it requires us to rethink this idea of the individual has work to do to overcome their imposter syndrome. Oftentimes, it's the environment that we are working in that may require us to do things like, or we feel the environment is requiring us to do things like run down our resume every time we come into a conference room or to a big meeting, or that we have to remind people of all of our credentials, or that we have to have someone else to validate or to back up or to verify an idea that we've had, because other people will not receive it from us in the same way they'll receive it from other people. I had a friend that used to say, if you allow a tall white man to say your idea, it'll be received immediately. Where if I am the one that says it directly as a average height Black woman, there may be some resistance, more likely to be resistance, more likely that questions will be asked. So I really wanted to make sure that we thought about this, because the environment has a lot to do with the perception of being accepted, of being welcomed, of being seen as a valuable asset to the organization that you're in. But when you're not getting those signals from the organization, then you begin to internalize the signals. And imposter syndrome as an idea happens in all different stages of life and career. There's a lot of research that says medical students applying to medical school for the first time will have concerns or trepidations or feel the feelings tied to imposter syndrome, or the symptoms tied to imposter syndrome, because it's actually been pathologized as a syndrome. And oftentimes that is an experience where that individual is growing, and those systems or that environment that they are moving into is giving them some form of a signal that they are not what they perceive themselves to be, which is likely credible medical students who are applying to school, right, in their career path. So I really think thinking about it more as the system and the culture allows individuals first not to be responsible for the culture and the environment that they are in. It allows us to step back as individuals and say, is this the right environment for me? Is this something that I need to address personally, or is it the environment, or is there some combination of both? But I wanted to broaden the discussion in a really intentional way, because I'm hearing so many capable, talented, just knock your socks off people really struggle with this idea of leaning into their audacity and leaning into asking for what they want. And I have to look back to say, how does the system benefit from you not asking for what you want? How does the organization or the environment that you are in benefit from you not showing up in your ability to be fully audacious, in your ability to ask for what you want, and your ability to be properly titled, and your ability to get the promotion that you're looking for? The system does benefit when you don't ask for those things, when you don't advocate for yourself in that way. And what I've learned throughout my career and throughout running my own business is that psychology and the way we talk to ourselves is much more powerful, much, much, much more powerful when we are feeding ourselves things that are going to allow us to perceive ourselves to have a growth mindset, allow ourselves to believe that we are operating in the realm of yet. I don't have it yet. I haven't done it yet, but that it's a matter of time, because growth is coming. Growth is inevitable. Growth is something you're constantly in pursuit of. There's no final destination for growth. Growth is something we're constantly pursuing. So that discomfort of stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's normal. That is healthy. That is a part of growth. But seeing yourself as an imposter is not normal. It's not. Hard stop. So I really wanted to break it down to talk to leaders in organizations, leaders who are responsible for organizations and really helping to shepherd in great talent, leaders of the future, all of the things. If you are a leader and you want to see talent remain in your organization, you want to see the best and the brightest show up, you want people to take calculated risks because you created an environment of psychological safety. Environments of psychological safety do not nurture imposter syndrome. Environments that are psychologically safe for women, for Black and brown, indigenous people, for people to be people, do not proliferate imposter syndrome, because the environment has to make you feel as though you are an imposter through the signals. So I did a LinkedIn post a little while back, and it was focused on heap-eating. So I'm going to blend two things. I'm talking about imposter syndrome here. What does it have to do with heap-eating, right? And how do the two align? So heap-eating was this idea that women would say something in a meeting, and someone else would repeat what they said pretty much verbatim, and the room would acknowledge the second person, the man who was the one who heaped, right? So it wasn't his idea, it wasn't the concept. The original speaker didn't get properly acknowledged, or wasn't able to be received. And then someone else repeats it and it's well received and everyone gives a round of applause, right? I've been in that situation numerous amounts of times. I can't even count. And what I did in that post was to help leaders and organizations who want to have a healthy culture figure out ways to use language that it was inclusive and that was acknowledging of the original speaker in a really intentional way, so that that original speaker gets the acknowledgement that they deserve, gets the credit for having great ideas. Ideas are a part of currency in an organization. Ideas are allowed, or would allow you to be entered into those short list opportunities, right? Ideas are really important. Execution is important after the idea. But that acknowledgement of the originator of the idea is huge. If you don't acknowledge the originator of the idea, then the risk is they will perceive themselves as not well received, not acknowledged in the organization, not heard. Those are the places where imposter syndrome has the potential to flourish. So we're not talking about imposter syndrome on the individual side. We're talking about imposter system on the organization and on the culture side. So the systems that are in place that question, that probe, that don't give credit when credit is due, that don't do the work to make sure you acknowledge the original speaker when you talk about the idea of heap-eating, that's where those kinds of perceptions end up. Am I doing what I'm capable of? Am I showing up in the best way? You are oftentimes. These individuals that I have the opportunity to work with, phenomenal, talented clients, you are showing up in the best way possible, but the environment is one that's not conducive. So then there's a chance that you'll step back. You'll be less audacious. You won't ask for the things that you believe that you deserve. You may not take the credit, right, when credit is due, or you may downplay, right, what your ability is and how you show up in the organization because you're getting signals. So I want to not take all the responsibility off the individual, because I'm sure that all of us have the ability to get better at showing up in some of these spaces. But I want to put a lot of the responsibility, maybe 80 for the 20, on the organization, on the culture that organization has, because each organization has its own unique culture. But that culture allows imposter syndrome as a concept to thrive. So let's break down that system, because systems is a set of things working together as a part of a mechanism, right? Systems are principles or procedures according to which something is done. If the system continues to allow the questioner, the person who, the heap-eater, the person who, asks questions about how you got invited to the meeting, if the system allows that individual to continue to navigate in the organization unchecked, unmanaged, unaddressed, then the system has a problem that needs to be solved. If they care, for real, if they care for real, then the system has a problem to solve, not the individual. So I just want us to stop telling, especially young people early in their career, just people in general, well, that's imposter syndrome that's showing up. If you're having a hard time, we all suffer from it. Yes, we all suffer from human feelings. We all suffer from fear or trepidation when we are experiencing growth. Yes, that is normal. That is human. But this idea of imposter syndrome is so driven by the environment, and it's really an imposter system that is getting created to really impact the psychology of the individual, and then it manifests in the individual. But it's not the environment that they created, right? It's not their responsibility to then help to navigate or help the culture to adjust to be able to grow. It's not the responsibility of the individual, just like it's not the responsibility of women to solve for sexism, just like it's not the responsibility of Black people alone to address racial bias and discrimination. Like, it's not the responsibility of the individual. The system has work to do. So if we desire to see more people be successful in environments, professional organizations, in corporate America, in academia, in nonprofit leadership, if we desire to see more people be successful, if we desire to create true equity, we have to create cultures where the questioner or the heap-eater or the person who is disruptive to the individual who we know is completely credible and capable, we have to address them. We have to address the system and the interconnectedness of the system when people come into these environments where there are not people who look like them or where there are not people who come from their type of a background. We have to address that. And that's what leaders really have the ability to do. And it'll cost you very little dollars. There's a huge impact that you can have on culture by acknowledging when an imposter syndrome environment is being created and disrupting it. Some of that is addressing the heap eater directly. It costs you $0. And I think it could have a tremendous impact on organizations and people's perception of what value they can bring to the organization. It could unlock tremendous potential for that individual. It also could unlock tremendous potential for everyone who is watching the interactions that are happening between the system and the organization and that individual, because we all know people are watching. So I would love for more leaders in organizations to be more audacious to address some of the systems that are in place, some of the people that are a part of the systems that are in place that allow imposter system to happen in their organization, because that's the root oftentimes of people having a sense of belonging. It's not that they sense that it's not that as an individual I've identified I don't belong. It's the environment has told me that I don't belong. The environment has told me or sent me signals that I'm an imposter, and I've internalized those signals. So yes, I want to continue to do the work on the individual side to make sure that we are getting not only we can translate those signals, but also that we're getting data and information from other sources outside of the workplace. We talked about that on the last LinkedIn Live. I'm going to go into that a little bit deeper. Whether it's other professional organizations or donations of time of a nonprofit organization that you want to work for, you name it. Other signals that are going to give you the acknowledgement and give you the credit that you deserve, right? So we talked about that. The combination of the two are powerful. Working every day in your day job, in a culture, in a system that actually allows you to thrive, creates an environment for you to be watered as an individual, as a plant, to be nurtured, to be able to grow, right? And also that you get that external acknowledgement, validation, recognition that's really important. Now, I'm not here to pretend that corporate America is a garden and that, people are just looking to water you and people are just looking to nurture you. I'm not under any guise that that's possible or that that's true. But I am really under a clear understanding that if you want to have an environment where equity is possible and where talent has the ability to show up and deliver exceptional results for your organization, the culture and the environment has to be right. And oh, by the way, there are people coming into the workforce now and people who are already in the workforce that are setting that as a higher expectation. That culture, quality of life, quality of the work environment mean more to them than other incentives that are being thrown. So as you think about, as a leader of the organization, how can you have a sincere impact on your culture? What's the work that can be done? The work is to make sure that you are acknowledging and making sure that you have managers and leaders of people who understand how critical it is to navigate these environments through acknowledgement, through addressing imposter system culture. That's the real work. Do you have people who are capable of not only leading people who are amazing, fantastic, and can bring amazing impact to your organization, can level up your organization, can come with innovative new ideas, but have you also created a culture and an environment, a system in which they can thrive? And that's the question. And that's the way that I really want to partner with organizations. Have we been thoughtful of the system? And as you're designing a system, or as you are tweaking or making adjustments to an existing system, because sometimes folks aren't ready to start all over, that's where you bring in a professional. That's where you bring in someone like Leah Murphy to help your organization do that work, because the impact is immense. So, final shout out to Dr. Raquel Martin, who I absolutely love. Keep doing amazing work. And to Tiffany Tavares for constantly being a mentor and inspiring me in her thoughts and language and in the way that she shows up in the world. I absolutely love being inspired by other women. I see them all as inspiration for the work that I do, and influential in the way that I have the ability to be able to change my mind and evolve my own thinking. So thank you so much to those who have come before and who laid a foundation that allows me now to be able to speak from this position of authority. So this has been dope. Love being here with you all. Do scan the QR code here at the bottom of the screen if you are watching us live, or head over to gemsforthejourney.org if you are listening. Gemsforthejourney.org will allow you to find out about all of the amazing things that we're doing here in the background, take advantage of all those things, and then you'll also have the opportunity to see the new services that we offer, which include team building, keynote speaking, as well as professional development services. This has been amazing being with you all here today. I look forward to seeing you again at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're here every week. I cannot wait to read the DMs for this. I want to dismantle this idea of imposter syndrome and the responsibility being on the individual, and really shift some of the responsibility to imposter system, and thinking through how do we create cultures and environments where people have the potential and the ability to thrive. Excited to see the DMs and all of the comments that come along with it. Would love to have more conversations with any other practitioners that have a contrary opinion, or folks that have been thinking the same thing and just need an opportunity to say it out loud. I will see you all next time.